Apple's working on a new iPad mini, which will actually be the biggest change that a mini has ever received. So get those snacks ready, and here is why I think that this device, the iPad mini 6, might just be the best value iPad of 2021. If you have any iPad, you have to try out Paperlike, our sponsor for this video. Paperlike makes the drawing and writing experience feel like real paper as opposed to the slippery feel that you normally get. When I was preparing for my citizenship exam, I applied Paperlike and used it daily for about 3 to 4 months to write my notes on, and it honestly made a world of a difference. And it also reduces reflectivity by diffusing the light so that you can better enjoy your content in bright lighting conditions. Check it out using the link below. Number 1. Unlike the entry-level iPad, which still features an outdated design that was basically introduced back in 2013 with the original iPad Air, the new iPad mini is set to come with a brand new design which matches the iPad Pro's design. Now, in case you haven't been keeping up with the iPad mini design changes over the years, the iPad mini 5, which was released back in March 2019, has the exact same design from the front as the very first iPad mini released in 2012. Like, the only design change that Apple has ever made to the Mini was with the Mini 4 in 2015, which featured a laminated display and a thinner body. However, with the Mini 6, which according to Ming-Chi Kuo will launch in the second half of 2021, we would finally get this new flat frame treatment that Apple has given to the iPad Pro in 2018. And that's totally believable, as Apple has recently started moving all of their products in this direction. The iPhone got its design treatment, the new iMac got it too, the new Apple Watch is set to have it as well, and even the Apple TV remote is kinda squared off as well. And I gotta say, I much prefer this over the previous rounded edge look. The flat frame makes it easier to hold, it looks more industrial. I absolutely love it, and I do hope that Apple applies this design to even more of their products. Also, this design change is backed up by a number of reports. Ming-Chi Kuo claimed that Apple's working on a brand new 8.5-inch to 9-inch iPad mini. Mark Gurman said back in March that Apple is preparing to launch an iPad mini with a larger display this year, and Jon Prosser showed us some renders in mid-June which were based on schematics and real photos of the iPad mini that he had seen. On top of this, a new report from Mark Gurman and Debbie Wu from earlier this month reinforces the new design by saying that the new iPad mini would feature smaller bezels and no home button, to which Jon Prosser adds in his report that it will also feature USB Type-C, dramatically improved speakers, Touch ID, as well as come in 3 colors: silver, black, and gold. So from all of this, we can pretty much conclude that this new iPad mini 6 would essentially be an iPad Pro mini, or an iPad mini Pro. As far as I'm aware, there is no other iPad mini coming, although we have seen some reports saying that the Mini 6 would still have the exact same design, but luckily that no longer seems to be the case, which is great, as we are finally getting something new. And I think that the reason why this design change might actually make the new Mini the best overall iPad that you can buy is because if you really want an iPad with Apple's flat frame design, up until now, you had to go for the iPad Air, which would have cost you $600. The iPad mini will be a more affordable version of that. The iPad mini 5 is currently $400. Now, I do see Apple bumping up that price by quite a bit, but I don't see it go as high as $500, as most people would just buy the iPad Air in that case. My guess is $449 for this new iPad mini, essentially $150 less than the iPad Air. But aside from the smaller size, you pretty much get all the main features of the iPad Air, including the Apple A14 processor, according to Jon Prosser. The Mini 5 currently has the A12, while the iPad Air already has the A14. And I know, the A14 is not as powerful as the M1 inside the iPad Pros, but keep in mind that the M1 is still not fully utilized, and the fact that we get the A14 inside a super portable device such as the iPad mini will actually make it very close in performance to the iPad Pro 2020 and the iPad Pro 2018. both of which could handle everything from 4K video editing to multi-track audio creation and much more. Performance-wise, this iPad mini will be more than enough for pretty much anyone using an iPad. We don't know the amount of RAM yet, but I would expect this to be the same as on the current iPad Air at 4 GB. Some of you might think that this is just not enough, as we do have 8 GB of RAM or even 16 on the Pros. But you need to remember that apps are actually still limited to using a maximum of 5 GB of RAM, even in iPadOS 15, and until Apple lifts this restriction, apps will run more or less the same on the iPad mini 6 as they already do on the latest M1 iPad Pros. And now I want to talk about a third reason why I think that this will be such a great iPad to get in 2021. But before that, definitely subscribe if you're enjoying this video so far, as it's free. Something that won't be free, unfortunately, is the Apple Pencil, the second-gen Apple Pencil, which this iPad mini is set to support. So with the Mini 5, we only got support for the first-gen Apple Pencil, you know, the brilliant one that charges from the bottom of your iPad. And now, since we have a squared-off frame, we would get support for the second-gen one. A very interesting point that Jon Prosser made in his article was that the leaked glossy Apple Pencil that we saw last year, that was posted by Mr. White, if you guys remember that, but never actually happened, might actually be of a new Apple Pencil, specifically made for this new iPad mini. As when John put that image side by side with the regular second-gen Apple Pencil, it did indeed seem that the leaked one was a smaller version of the standard one, which makes a lot of sense as the current gen Apple Pencil is almost as big as the entire iPad mini is. The fact that it will support the second gen would improve charging, and that double tap functionality would make it the most affordable iPad to support it. But I honestly think that the main reason why you should get this new iPad mini is the value that it will offer. So for what I believe to be, like I said, around $150 less than an iPad Air, you would get the exact same functionality, but in a smaller form factor. From the leaks, the display size is set to range in between 8.5 to 9 inches, making it noticeably larger than the current 7.9-inch display of the iPad mini 5, but in a very similar or even identical form factor. This means that it will still be one-handable like the current iPad mini is, but with a larger display. That was actually my favorite part of the iPad mini, the fact that it was larger than any of my smartphones, including foldable ones, but that I could also hold it in just one hand, which was really great. So I think that people who prefer portability over a larger display would absolutely love this new iPad mini. However, there are some potential limitations that you should be aware of when it comes to this new iPad mini, with the first one being the smart keyboard. You see, Apple does not actually offer a keyboard for the iPad mini, as it would be way too small to comfortably fit the keys in. You can, however, buy some third-party keyboard cases if you really do need a keyboard, but you should be aware that none of those have trackpad support, as again, they are just too small to fit one. So this is the one downside, the main one actually, of this iPad mini, the fact that unlike the iPad Air and the Pros, which can be used as a laptop replacement to some extent, the iPad mini would not be an option, as not only is the display smaller, but we also have no keyboard with trackpad option. Speaking of the smaller display, the second limitation is going to be in terms of multitasking. So I still expect Apple to give us the same 3 window options as they currently do on, the iPad mini 5, but of course this will be an inferior experience even on the new iPad mini, as the display will be smaller when compared to all the other iPads. And then the third issue is that even though we do have Apple Pencil support, it would not be as satisfying as using it on a larger display. Even on my 11-inch iPad Pro, I sometimes feel the need to have a larger display when I'm using my Apple Pencil. And finally, the fourth issue will very likely be the battery life. Currently, the iPad mini 5 does still offer the same 10-hour battery life as all the other iPads, but at least from my experience with using the Mini 4 for a few years, it just never lasted as long as any of the larger iPads that I've used. And I still expect that to be the case. So if you care about having the best battery life on an iPad, probably stay away from the mini. So in the end, I think that the best way to look at this new iPad mini is not by considering it an iPad mini Pro or an iPad Pro mini, but an iPad Air mini instead. But let me know in the comments, what do you guys think of this new iPad mini? Do you think it will finally be, you know, a great iPad to get in your usage. I think for me, I don't know, I think the display is just too small for me, but I think for anyone who just wants like a very portable device that's like small enough to even fit in a jacket, but large enough to easily consume content on, I think this new iPad mini is perfect. Plus you also have 5G, like this is so cool. This is also something that John Prosser mentioned in his article, 5G on the new iPad mini. So like I can imagine a type of person that doesn't really use a phone, but has an iPad mini instead with 5G, and you basically get all the same functionality aside from, of course, the ability to make phone calls. But like, really? Who makes phone calls today? But yeah, that's pretty much it. Definitely subscribe if you want to see more interesting tech videos like this one hopefully was. I'm Daniel, this has been Zen of Tech, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Zen of Tech, signing out. Cheers.